Please start.
Hello, everyone. I would like to start with a quick question. Have you ever found yourself in a meeting or in a conversation where you've somehow felt, hey, what's going on in here? Or have you even thought that, hey, please, can you just get to the point? Have you ever been there in such a situation in a meeting or a conversation? Now let's flip the moment. Have you ever been that person? We've all been there, right? And that's exactly why today's topic is important. We're diving into something very important in today's day and age. Today, we are going to talk about speak less, impact more, the power of brevity in leadership. So, what we're going to explore today in the next 40 minutes is that I'm going to walk you through why leaders must master the art of brevity to succeed in the fast moving world, the psychology and the science behind short, high impact communication, the three-part framework that you will get to know very soon, the framework that we can adapt to learn the art of brevity, and the five powerful habits that we can start using today to speak less and impact more. And if we can apply even one idea from today's session, we will see instant upgrades in how people will start listening to us, responding to us, and even respect your leadership voice. So let us dive in. So, why this topic matters to us today? Let me tell you that we're all living in a hyper connected, over communicated world. And what Forbes tells us that an average professional receives over 120 emails a day. Zoom fatigue is real. Slack pings are non-stop. We scroll fast, we think fast, and if we don't get to the point, people will even zone out fast. That's the real world that we're all living in. And that is exactly why today's leadership landscape, the real power lies in brevity in your communication. The most respected leaders, if you look at them, they don't speak more, they just speak better. And what is that better is where the brevity lies. They communicate with clarity and they land their messages in seconds. And that way, the leaders own the room, not with just the volume, but with the precision in which the words land. Brevity, if you look at, it is not no longer a nice to have skill in your arsenal. It is definitely a leadership advantage that it is going to give each one of us. Now, there's a very famous quote that I love. So, what the quote says is that the most valuable of all talents is that never using two words when one will do. What it means is that in a place of one word, never use two words. And that exactly is what is brevity. And McKinsey's study has found out that up to 70% of executives feel that their meetings are all unproductive. Why? Because people don't prepare. People don't distill their thoughts. They just go on to talk more, therefore confuse more. And they are also confused that more words means more value. But what really happens is that clarity is what creates trust. And when you use more words thinking that it is more value, you're not giving that clarity, which, in the other hand, you're losing trust from your own people. And when leaders go about rambling, they confuse their teams, they lose their credibility, and they reduce the decision making speed of their team. Now, let's be honest for a moment. Some leaders just talk too much, and most of us are also guilty of doing that, right? Not because we all love hearing our own voices. Yeah, some do as well. But because most of us think that explaining more equals to impacting more. But in reality, the more the words that we use, the less the clarity that we offer. Let me repeat that. More words is not equal to more clarity. It's like inversely proportional. In fact, if you look at it, too many words can weaken your credibility, dilute the message, and even more, confuse your team. And I'll tell you why. Let's look at why behind all of this, right? Number one reason is that our brains aren't wired for wordiness. Let's bring in a bit of science here. According to neuroscientists, the human brain processes visual and emotional information faster than how it processes a long-winded explanations, too much of wordy audio note. So when a leader goes on and on in meetings and presentations, what really happens? The brain checks out. And this is exactly what certain researchers call it as cognitive overload. And think about your own experiences. When someone rambles without getting to that point, don't you start thinking about your to do list? What will I have for dinner today? And literally everything else that we could possibly think about? You're not alone. And a study published by Harvard Business Review showed that when executives use dense or lengthy messaging, the engagement drops over 45 percentage. Yes, that's nearly half of the audience who just gets switched off. And if you look at it very deeply, if we can start speaking very clear, clarity, fewer words, you can automatically get the engagement up by 50%. Isn't that a very good statistics to follow? The second reason is that time is a new currency for all of us. And that's the truth bomb, right? In 2025, attention is the most valuable resource. Not money, not talent, not even strategy, but attention. Your team is juggling with a lot of deadlines, stakeholders scanning over hundreds and thousands of emails, and all of your stakeholders are time starved. If you are not brief, you're absolutely going to be ignored. And this is exactly why great leaders value time like it is gold. And that's how brevity comes in picture. So it's very important for all of us to start respecting the time of people, distill our ideas and thoughts into essence, and not repeat things thinking that it is going to give a dramatic effect because it is going to give an inverse effect. And what you should be aiming for in this day and age, where time is a new currency, is just the attention of your team. Now, the third reason is that rambling or talking too much destroys confidence. Here is a leadership trap. We think rambling shows that we are knowledgeable, but what it actually shows is that we are not prepared. When a leader speaks in circles and goes on in circles, here's what people think. And I'm sure each of us would have thought the same way when somebody goes on to talk in circles, right? We all think they are not very clear about their own message. If they can't get to the point, how will they get to the goal? And most importantly, have we even thought, are they hiding somewhere? Are they hiding something somewhere? And how many of us have watched this in movies or even used it in our own personal lives? When somebody goes on to talk in circles and beating around the bush, hey, what mistake did you do? What are you hiding? Get to the point. What does this really mean? Speaking too much or rambling doesn't just lose people, it creates that doubt in people. But in the contrast, when you speak clearly, briefly, directly, all that you do is to radiate that confidence. And many of us speak about, hey, I'm an introvert, I'm very soft spoken, I'm not even fluent in English. And guess what? If you speak brief and clear, you can actually let go of all of this. People will actually listen to you because clarity breeds authority, not anything else. It's very simple as that, right? Now, let's get to the fourth reason. Rambling wastes meetings and kills motivation of people. Very important. There's a simple statistic which came from the 2024 Work Index by Asana. The average professional wastes about 3.5 hours a week in unproductive meetings, not just meetings. Unproductive meeting itself will take up 3.6 hours in a week. And what does that account to? Nearly 190 hours a year. And that's a huge number, right? In spending on unproductive meetings. And do you know that what do people actually say about these meetings? That leader came with no agenda. My team lead was, kept circling about the same point over and over again. Nothing actionable is actually getting out of this meeting. So now imagine this. You're addressing a meeting with your team member who has been attending five, six back to back calls, and every meeting somebody is talking endlessly, trying to sound important, repeating themselves for dramatic effect, dragging a 10-minute conversation into a 40-minute meeting. And the third call, the brain is fired. You're not motivated. The person gets mentally checked out, and that is an invisible cost of a leader who goes on rambling. So, motivation is another reason. The fifth reason is that leaders who don't speak less, are not taken seriously, right? If you want to be taken seriously, you want to speak less. And let's look at it. Let's take a story of a senior executive. Let's call him Anil. Anil has brilliant ideas, respected for his domain technical knowledge, but his town halls will go on for hours and hours. And he goes on 60 minutes continuously speaking, and others sitting and pretending as if they are engaged. When when I asked his team for feedback, what would they say? He says the same thing 5 times. He uses too many filler words. We even stopped listening after first 10 minutes, right? Now let's take another example of another leader. Let's call her Sneha. She is someone who gets to the point, and she'll only take 2 minutes for a quick alignment, or not takes does not take 30 minutes or 90 minutes of a meeting. Now let me ask you few questions. Guess who gets the major follow through after the meeting? How many of her action points gets done? I mean, is it Anil or is it Sneha? Obviously Sneha, right? Who commands respect amongst the team members? Anil or Sneha? It's Sneha. Guess who leads faster moving teams? Obviously Sneha. Why? Because she is a leader who is brief, focused, and purposeful. She leads with clarity and impact. So far, we looked at how leaders talking too much creates cognitive overload. It makes meetings unproductive and messaging unclear. It kills the executive presence. And in today's fast moving world, people don't want more words, they want more meaning. Now that we've explored why verbosity kills leadership, let's shift the gears to explain and explore the positive aspects of brevity. What does great brevity in leadership sound like, and how you can master it? Now, stay with me before we get into a three-part framework that we are going to get in. I'd like to start with the science behind all of this. There is a term called processing fluency out there. What does it mean? This means it is a cognitive psychology that refers to how easily our brains process information. Messages that are short and easy to digest feel more credible, trustworthy, and intelligent. And that is exactly when your brain says, that's a smart idea. And audience thinks, okay, this leader knows what they are doing. And most importantly, the message that you give as a leader sticks with people. According to 2023 MIT study, shows that concise, brief communication increases the decision making speed up to 37%. Imagine shaving off all the delays in the meetings, execution, feedback loops, just because you said something better in fewer words. And that is the power of speaking very less. Now let's shift and look at certain great leaders who has applied this science in their real life. Let's talk about Barack Obama. In 2008, during one of the most emotionally charged political campaigns in US, Barack Obama did not rely upon the long policy documents to move the nation. He instead used only three words. Yes, we can. And those three words became a cultural anthem. Why? Because they were very simple, very inclusive and rhythmic. And most importantly, very short statements are the ones which could be repeated most often, right? And that is the essence of leadership communication. Say something that sticks in the people's heart and minds long after you've left the room. And this can be only be done when you talk short statements. Obama's speeches were known for his elegance and depth, but the lines that moved people the most were the shortest ones uttered by him. So that's why, yes, we can actually became a cultural anthem for people. And that's how Obama's speech stuck in people's mind. And that is the magic of brevity when it's emotionally loaded. Now, let's talk about one of the greatest product storytellers in the tech world. Until today, sometimes that's what we hear. Steve Jobs. And Jobs didn't just communicate product features, he built anticipation every time he'd walk on the stage dressed in that black jeans and the turtleneck to deliver a clean keynote. Every time he uttered that phrase and he smiled and said, oh, one more thing. If you've ever noticed his product, how he delivered his product keynotes, this phrase, oh, one more thing, that phrase was really short. But over time, this particular phrase became iconic because everyone knew this was where the magic got dropped. Oh, one more thing. And then he goes on to tell what are the products and the magic features that the products had. He delivered iPods, iPhones, and the MacBook Air's product keynotes in the same fashion. And that's when this, oh, one more thing as a phrase became super famous. And all of the products, if you look at for Apple, all unveiled with those four words that was mastered by Jobs. And Jobs mastered what very few people or leaders do. He understood that brevity builds the drama. Brevity amplifies the drama. And he used it really well. And few of his product keynotes were actually masterclasses which was read in MBA schools where people learned how a person can give such an impactful keynote. And now let's take a closer look to the home. India's own corporate powerhouse, Indra Nooyi, the former CEO of PepsiCo. She wasn't a leader who was known for talking the most in a boardroom. But when she spoke, people listened. Her leadership style was rooted in thoughtful observation and strategic silence. She would often hold back, listen to the rest of them deeply, and then offer sharp, distilled insight that shifted the entire room's direction. A boardroom member once shared about Indra Nooyi. He said, when Indra Nooyi spoke, she didn't use 50 words. She would make her point in five, and those 5 words will stay with us for the next few days. She led a $60 billion company not by dominating conversations, but by being that selective vocal and being intentionally super clear. If we look at Indra Nooyi's power, her power wasn't in the volume that she shared in the boardroom. Her power lied in the value per word that she gave. And that's how you count the words and speak, right? So here's what I want you to know. Brevity isn't about saving time, it's about sending a signal. When you speak briefly, you signal clarity of thought. You signal the respect that you have for others' time. And most importantly, you signal confidence. Because insecure leaders are the ones that goes on to over explain, and the powerful leaders trust their words that they carry the weight. So they don't need to add any volume. They're just going to cut down the words and speak brief. So brevity plus silence can actually create a huge impact. And let's not also forget the power of the pause. One of my mentors once told me, Kavina, after you say something very important, shut up. Let silence do the work. And that particular 2 words, shut up, is something that I really carry till today, because silence is the one which amplifies brevity. It creates a space for the messages to land. If you look at TEDx speakers, what do? They speak, they share their ideas, they pause, they breathe, and they let the line sink in. We all don't need hundreds of slides. We just need that one killer sentence. And after that, the courage to pause. And this can really work magic. I'd like to look at certain corporate examples. The first one is Jeff Bezos. He is one leader who had banned PowerPoint in Amazon's leadership meetings. He replaced the PPTs into a 6 page memo rule. Why? Because he wanted his leaders to think very clearly and to get to the essence of their ideas. Not just Jeff Bezos, at Tesla, Elon Musk insisted on one pages. He often sends back the reports that are too long and wordy with a one single comment summarized in 3 bullet points. And that's how leaders take charge and be more brief when it comes to talking. Now, so far we have seen that brain loves short, easy to process messages, and the best leaders are the best editors who can actually be cutting short their long, wordy messages into very crisp, clear messages. Brevity is a mark of preparation, not weakness. So, these are certain ideas that we have seen so far. Now, let's get to the simple framework. And this simple framework is called 3S: short, sharp, and strategic. Your 3 part formula to speak less and impact more. Now, let's get into the first yes, which is short. Less is more. So that's what is our first yes, short. Let's start with the first principle shot. This isn't just about a word count, it is about that mental load. Do we remember that cognitive overload that we spoke about? And that's directly related here. It is all about cutting the clutter and distilling the essence. Now ask yourself, can I say this in fewer words and still keep the meaning intact? If the answer to it is yes, then go ahead and do it. Now, here's how you can go short. Number one, eliminate all the filler words like actually, basically, you know, just, kind of. So, these are certain filler words that you can go ahead and eliminate right away because these are certain words that make us sound very unsure. The second thing that you'll have to do to go more shorter is to ditch all those disclaimers. Instead of saying, I'm not sure, maybe I could, maybe we could, here's an idea that we could explore. I think, perhaps, please ditch all the disclaimers. That way, you will be more shorter when you speak. The third point that I want all of us to do is to use one sentence where three would do. Instead of saying, I'm reaching out to follow up with you regarding the email that I sent you last week, too wordy. Just say short, checking in on my last note, right? How a wordy sentence could be spoken in very few words. So, what do we do? Number one, please eliminate all your filler words. Actually, basically, ditch the disclaimers. I think I'm not sure of. Use one sentence where there could be three sentences that you've written. Now, let's quickly look at the tools where we could practice being shorter. If you look at Twitter, the formerly Twitter, which is the X right now, they have a very brief messaging, right? Try saying what you mean in 280 characters. And that's a challenge that all of us will have to undergo. Challenge yourself by summarizing a meeting in just 5 bullet points. Every time you write an email, ask yourself, what is the headline of what I'm trying to tell? Even before you start talking in a meeting, what is the headline that I'm trying to convey right now? And this is my golden rule to you. If you can't say it in one breath, rewrite it. Every sentence should be as long as you can read it in one breath. If you can't do that, go back and rewrite that sentence. And that can be your golden rule for being short. Now, with that, let us move on to the second yes of the three-part formula. The second yes is sharp. Say it with precision. Being sharp means clear, focused, and being direct. It is all about saying what you mean by cutting off that extra fluff in your messaging. Now, let's face it, right? Vague leaders confuse their teams, sharp leaders move their teams. And here's how you will have to sharpen your message. Number one, lead with your point. Don't bury it at the end of the paragraph. Start with what is that point. So now let's go reverse. What we generally do is we go on to write a long email and then we say what is our ask? What is a call to action? Instead, start with your call to action. That will make your message sharp. The second way to do it is to use strong active verbs. Instead of saying, let's think about it, let's think about maybe deciding it tomorrow. Instead of saying, let's think about all of that, just say, let's decide. That's being very strong with an active verb. The third thing is to replace jargons. Fancy words really look smart, but the clarity is the one which wins always. So instead of saying, let's leverage synergies to optimize cross functional alignment, that's too wordy and too much of jargons, right? How about we say it with simple clarity? Let's work together for better alignment. As simple as that. Let's not give that cognitive load to another person just because we want to use those fancy words from our dictionary, right? Sharp leaders communicate like laser. They cut through the noise, and the team says, yes, I get it. Yes, I get it from the team is what is more important for us rather than sounding wordy, rather than sounding with jargons which makes us look fancier and smart. That's not very important. What is important for us is to cut the noise and to communicate like that laser sharp person. Here's a quick tip for all of us: test your clarity by asking someone to repeat your message. If they can't repeat your message, it means you weren't sharp enough. So do this test. It's more like a litmus test. Do this every single time you're in a meeting as a leader. And trust me, when you call for a meeting, there's only one purpose to it. And that purpose needs to come at the start of the meeting. And the purpose needs to be told by your team member when you ask, what did you get from this meeting? As simple as it. Now, the third yes to our three-part formula is strategic. And that's my favorite part of communication. Speak with intention. Now, the most important one is strategic. This is where most people miss the mark. You can be short, you can be sharp, but you may miss out on being intentional, being strategic. So, what you'll have to do is to ask yourself one simple question before you speak. Is this the right message in the right moment to the right person? And that is all about strategic communication. Strategic communication is all about timing. When you say something, is, is it as important as what you say? A rushed point in a distracted room will not land. A clear message in a moment of silence, that is a power move. So we need to know the timing, if it is strategic or not. And the next thing that I want you to think about being strategic is all about tailoring. Let's not do the cut, copy, paste. That doesn't work in communication, and all the more for a leader who wants to be strategic. Don't cut, copy, paste. Adapt to your audience. We all know, right? When you have to present to your CFO, you have to present to your intern, same pitch doesn't go well with both of them. We need to definitely adjust the tone, the depth, the focus. And that's about being strategic, tailoring your communication, knowing your audience, adjusting and tuning your tone, your focus, your messaging, and the depth of the message that you want to give. And the third way for you to be more strategic is to be outcome focused. Always think backward. What's that one action I want people to take at the end of this meeting? What is that one clear ask I have at the end of this conversation? And these three things will make you more strategic. Ask yourself the question: is this the right message, the right moment to the right person? Asking yourself the question. The second thing is to tailor your communication. And the third thing is to have your outcome in focused. If you apply these three, you will make it more, you will make it more strategic. And the 3S framework in action. Let's look at a real life example. You are presenting a project to your leadership. Now, let's look at what a weak version might sound like, and then we'll go on to apply the 3S. All right, shall we do that? So, basically, so when you start, you say, so mm, basically, what we've been working on over the past couple of weeks is the next stage of the development. We are trying to streamline the design to fix a couple of issues we've seen. This is a weak version. You see what I was telling, couple of weeks, trying to streamline. Now let's apply the 3S. Short, sharp, strategic. Now, if you're being short, how you will start is here's a quick update on the progress this week. Now, being short, we have resolved three key bugs that reduced loading by 45%. Now, being strategic, we are on track to hit the next milestone by July 1st. Do you approve moving with this approach? Now, do you see how a weak version can be sharpened by applying a 3S formula by being short, sharp, and strategic? You start with the headline as to what are you talking about, and you go on to being sharp. 3 bucks, loading is reduced by 45 percentage, and then you're being strategic, right? You're telling, are we moving on time or not? When is the next milestone met? And also a call to action, do you approve this action plan? And now you've shown clarity, competency, and in control is in less than 30 seconds. Now let's move on and look at few habits that we can have to create that brevity as a superpower in our relation in our communication. The habit number one breath rule. If you can't say it in one breath, you haven't distilled it enough. And this is my favorite tool when you have to go about taking any meetings or conversations. And here's how it works. Take your key message, say it loud and slowly with purpose. If you run out of your breath, it is too long, so go back and rework it. This particular habit trains your brain to think clearly before speaking. So, the number one habit is one breath rule. The second habit is to lead with the example. This is what journalists mostly do. Even great speakers, if you see, they also lead with the headline. Start with the most important point and then start giving that supporting topics towards it. Instead of saying that, so after so many iterations on going through various approaches, we are very confident that we can deliver it by the next quarter. How about saying we are on track to deliver? That is the key essence, right? And then you can go about telling what all iterations that you have done. So that is where brevity builds trust. The third habit that I would like to give away is to replace think, speak with pause, think, speak. Replace think, speak to pause, think, speak. Most people think while speaking, but great leaders pause, think, and then speak. And that pause shows confidence. It shows intention. It makes every word that follows land harder than it could ever be. When I started communication, when I was in the corporate industry for the very first time, I always thought that if you pause, people will think that you are thinking, and hence I will lack confidence. Little did I know that actually pause is what shows confidence. It shows the intention to actually sharpen my message. And silence is absolutely not awkward. Silence is actually a strategy. So let us all start practicing it. Now let's look at the fourth habit. Use visuals or structure instead of rambling. If you find yourself explaining something for more than 60 seconds, stop and ask yourself, can I draw this on a board? Can I break this down into 3 bullet points? So either of it, right? Drawing is to use your visuals. Break this down into 3 bullet points is to actually give a structure to a topic that you have been speaking for more than 60 seconds. Why? Because people remember structure. People can easily grasp the visuals. They remember clarity because they forget those verbose, long explanations that you can actually be doing. So let's keep it very simple, visual, and memorable. Now, the last habit that I'd like to give away today is habit number 5, practice short form communication daily. If you want to be brief, you need to train your brain to speak briefly. Train your brain for brevity. Now, here's how you can do it. Write one 250 character summary for your day every day. Post those short, sharp, insightful summary on LinkedIn every morning. Summarize every meeting, not more than 5 bullet points. And ask your team, what is that one sentence? Ask yourself, what is that one sentence I want my team to remember? And ask your team, what is that one sentence that you got out of the meeting? And regularly calibrate your communication because brevity is like a muscle. And this is your gym. So start applying the 3S formula and those 5 habits. And that way you will be able to really remember what you want to say and say it as crisp as you could. So in today's conversation, it was all about one thing. Brevity is the power. And in leadership, fewer words can create deeper impact. So we spoke about how long winded leadership fails from cognitive overload to loss of trust. So that's something that we started with. And then we dwelled into the science and stories that prove brevity is a leadership advantage. We also looked at a practical 3-part formula, 3S formula, which is short, sharp, and strategic. And we also looked at 5 simple habits that will turn your words into influence. So, what was those 5 habits? The first one was one breath rule, lead with a headline, pause, think, speak, use visuals or structure, practice short form communication every single day. And if you do this regularly, people will remember you as a leader who is super confident and clear with the thoughts and actions. So here's what I want to leave you with. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to use big words and fancy words to be respected. All you have to do is to just speak with clarity, courage, and care. Speak less, impact more. And that's not a slogan. That is going to be your next level leadership strategy. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Kavina.
On
You did so well. I framed you on
thank, thank you, Shabana.
Ma'am, can I come in?
Yes, please.
I have a few, I wouldn't say questions, just to point probably my perspective and um, brilliant session. Lovely hearing you out.
Thank you.
I've got two major points over here. One is when you talk about people like Steve Jobs, Obama, you're absolutely point on in terms of their brevity, in terms of their communication. The fact is, most of these guys are extremely non-linear thinkers who have the capability to have linear uh, capabilities on communication, right? And
True.
a lot of these non-linear people or so-called leaders that we're talking about and we talk about in general are people who have gone through a certain journey in life, all right? And that journey brings them to a point where the mind is extremely decluttered. It's a call of action in life. Words are less. The time is of essence because that's how life has taught them to be. And why I'm
True.
saying that is I'm just bringing the spiritual perspective into that. Now that's not learned brevity, that's brevity coming out of your own learning that life has taught you. So these
That is
guys are masters in non-linear thinking, extreme non-linear thinking with capabilities to deliver the communication of linear platform. Uh, then I also believe, because I've been in this position, I run companies and I've been, uh, while brevity does work, but brevity in terms of your communication capabilities only, in my opinion, is extremely good when it comes to the higher management, where you have a vice president, a senior vice president. They're put in a certain amount of time in the ecosystem. They
mm,
have their work cut out because a company generally has people across the board in team which would have a certain level of IQ, ranging among all the team members, EQ levels, and you it would not be right to, and this is again extremely my opinion, to commoditize the communication capabilities because everybody needs a very different perspective in terms of how they get communicated within an organization or otherwise. A fresher would require a larger hand holding in terms of his mentor or seniors. A mid IQ guy person would require a different. Somebody who has a certain level of arrogancy within the work would require straight cut out answers. A vice president who is probably at a profit center ecosystem would fit the bill in terms of extremely crisp KRAs and communications in terms of what is expected out of him rather than going out in circles. So that's generally my opinion that I I I to a large part I agree with you, but I also believe that there are two levels of brevity within an ecosystem on communication. One is absolutely can be taught, and that's where the IS lobby, the IFS lobby is extremely brilliant because they're taught how to communicate in terms of being crisp, but then they generally do not go on to becoming extremely popular leaders. Uh, a good leader has the capability to know when to be in the zone of brevity in terms of his communication. And in certain nuances, he understands that he has to shed the brevity ecosystem and probably go a little more in depth, which is more the EQ level of communication with his team members. And I just feel that that area, after hearing you, is just not so black and white. It's got its shades
mm,
of gray. So a leadership in true sense should have the capability to understand when he needs to shed the one liners, the punchlines, and the brevity, and move into a more hand holding
mm.
process. And so I think that's what I would like to kind of just put it across. So I'm just kind of just adding on to what you're saying. Uh, Not really saying that what you're saying is right or wrong. I'm just simply saying, yeah, I agree with you, but it's also not probably extremely right to commoditize it at all levels, uh, because there are going to be different kind of people within the team at different structures and junctures of their career. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts.
Uh, I have a question to ask.
Yes, please. Yes.
How important is it for us to maintain an eye contact with the audience when we speak? Sometimes, is it okay that if we were to maintain an eye contact and our eyes are roving, let's say from left to right, so that we can take in the audience and we are communicating to a wider expanse, than to just look in the center, it's a one row of people and ramble and ramble.
Yes, thanks for that question. I feel eye contact is extremely important when it comes to the public speaking. Public speaking meaning multiple, more than one person in the audience, because that way it becomes conversation, otherwise it is this. So what really happens is, if we fail to have that eye contact, people mentally log out again. they keep listening to you. At one point they keep logging off. So it's very important for us to keep looking at all of them. And this is also in a way that we are reading what they are understanding by just looking at the icon, just having the eye contact. So when we look at audience, we know how many of them are who have mentally logged out, how many of them are not listening to us, how many of them are on their phone. So it's important for us also to get that acknowledgement from audience as to how many of them are actually with us. So it's very important. I feel when we start as public speakers, we train people telling that, okay, go with the W formula. You start with the left hand side, the first row, and then you slowly traverse towards the left hand side end, and then you come to the front, go towards the end of the right hand side and come. So this is a quick tips that we share, but over and over time, when we get more easy and accustomed to stages, what I do is to generally look at everyone. In case somebody I know is mentally checked out, I ask them a question or look at them and make a point so that they get alerted. They say, if people in the audience are sleeping, then wake up the speaker. So, and I feel the quick thing that we can be actually doing is to actually give an eye contact. And then people are like, okay, this person is looking at us. Let me be alert. Let me listen to them actually. So that's something that I would like to leave with. I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Birthday girl, any question?
Guess no. Shabana, back to you.
What a good session on my birthday. Thank you.
Oh, your birthday.
Thank you, Rajan. Is it your birthday today?
Yeah.
I just
Oh, lovely.
no, I just it's so apt for you to speak on this topic because a lot of things that we suppress as leaders, we suppress as professionals, should be spoken out and should not be kept inside. And on this, listening to your strategies and everything else brought me more closer to God, brought me more closer to my siblings. I don't know. I hope it maintains, not just during birthdays, but I hope it maintains every time without them complaining that I'm annoying and irritating and stuff. But yeah.
Rajvin, on your birthday, here's so very happy birthday, Rajvin, for you and for everyone around you. Wishing you all success and happiness.
Very, very happy birthday, Radhan. God bless you.
Yeah.
And I hope to speak on the consciously positive about gratitude and something about the spiritual fest is that I hope to bring in the element of appreciation and laughter for the soul. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Rajvin. And
And
happy-
God bless and good session.
yeah.
Thank you, Rajvin.
Thank you. And see you all tomorrow again.